A man sat down for the first real silence he'd had in 3 days. He lasted 9 seconds. Not because anything was wrong, not because he was waiting for something. His hand moved before the thought did. Screen, light, motion, and the silence was gone. He didn't notice. That's not the strange part. The strange part is, neither do we, because silence no longer arrives as peace. It arrives as a warning. Something to fix. Something to fill. And the moment that shift happened, we stopped resting. We started escaping. But escaping from what? Exactly. What are we actually running from when nothing is wrong? We don't choose distraction anymore. It chooses us before thought even forms. A pause appears and the hand already moves. No decision. No awareness. Just repetition. Scroll, switch, refresh, repeat. It feels harmless because it's fast. But speed is exactly how patterns become invisible. We stopped asking why we reach for noise, because the answer would be uncomfortable. It's not boredom. It's not curiosity. It's resistance to being still with ourselves. And the more automatic it becomes, the less we notice we are not in control of it anymore. At what point did we stop noticing we were being moved? Instead of choosing movement, silence was never empty. We just never stayed long enough to hear what filled it. Because when everything outside slows down, everything inside speeds up. Thoughts we postpone begin to surface. Feelings we postpone begin to speak. And suddenly, we realize something unsettling. We are not quiet inside. We are crowded, not with people, with unfinished conversations with ourselves. So we leave again, not because silence is empty, but because it is too full. Are we avoiding silence? Or what silence refuses to hide anymore? A child in 1989 sat in the backyard for 2 hours. Nothing happened. There was no phone to check, no feed to scroll, just afternoon light and the sound of grass. He was completely fine. He didn't need rescuing from the moment. The moment was enough. That's it. Everything after stays exactly as written. There was a time when stopping was normal. Not earned, not scheduled, not optimized, just available. A real pause existed between moments. A natural off button built into life itself. No one needed to explain it. No one felt guilty inside it, because life didn't follow us everywhere we went. There were spaces where nothing reached us, and in those spaces, the mind learned itself. But now, nothing truly turns off. Even rest is connected. Even silence is interrupted. And slowly, we forgot what it felt like to fully disappear from everything. What happens to a mind that never gets to fully shut down? And here is what no one tells us about what happened inside during all that silence we lost. We used to believe identity came from within us, but that is not what is happening anymore. Because if we remove all reactions, all feedback, all recognition, something strange begins to happen. We start to feel less certain that we exist in the same way. Not physically, but socially, mentally, emotionally. It turns out we were not forming ourselves. We were assembling ourselves from responses, from attention, from reflected validation. And without it, the structure begins to feel incomplete. Not broken, just unfinished. If nothing reflected us, what exactly would remain? If we removed every distraction right now, no phone, no noise, new movement, something uncomfortable would happen almost instantly. Not peace, not clarity, disorientation. Because what we called normal life was never actually stillness. It was a constant replacement. And now, without replacement, we don't know what to do with ourselves. This is where it becomes dangerous. Because silence doesn't just reveal thoughts, it reveals dependence. And we are far more dependent than we realized. We are not entering silence. We are withdrawing from noise. And those two are not the same thing. This is what it means to be the last generation that ever learned how to be alone and forgot how it feels to stay there. If silence feels like withdrawal, what does that say about what we became dependent on? And here's what that dependence costs over time. Not just focus, not just attention, the ability to generate thought without input. There is a specific kind of thinking that only happens in stillness. Deep boredom, wandering, unfocused presence. That is where creativity comes from. That is where self-knowledge forms. But we have been systematically eliminating every condition that makes it possible. Not because we chose to, because we never noticed it was happening. And now, even when the room is quiet, the mind doesn't wander anymore. It waits for something to react to. We are not overwhelmed by life. We are overwhelmed by unfinished perception. Every notification we have, every video we watched was halfway. Every conversation we had was while something else was loading. None of it was completed. None of it was processed. It just stacked layer over layer, like open tabs that never close, and the mind does not forget what it hasn't finished. It carries it forward into the next moment and the next. So when we finally stop, when the room goes quiet and there's nothing left to do, we do not feel rest. We feel the weight of everything we never fully experience. That is the real cost of constant input. Not exhaustion, not a distraction. The permanent sense that we are always slightly behind ourselves. What would it feel like to finish a thought completely before starting the next one? So we try to return to silence. We put the phone down, we sit, we wait, and within moments, the mind does something strange. It does not settle, it reaches. Not for anything specific, just outward, looking for the next input, the next signal, the next thing to react to, and this is the part we misread completely. We call it restlessness. We call it boredom. We tell ourselves we are just bad at being still. But it is not a discipline problem. It is a withdrawal symptom. The mind has been trained systematically to expect stimulation at intervals. And when the interval ends and nothing arrives, the craving begins. We are not failing at silence. We are detoxing from noise. And we do not even have a name for what we are recovering from. If stillness feels like something is wrong, what does that tell us about what we've become? We didn't lose silence. We lost what silence used to do to us. It used to strip everything unnecessary away. It used to return us to something simpler, slower, clearer. But now, silence feels unfamiliar. Not because it changed, but because we did. And the off button still exists. It was never removed. It was just forgotten as a place we could enter without fear. And the moment we realize that, noise stops being comforting and becomes avoidance. And what we avoid in silence is exactly what we carry everywhere else.